Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this webinar session. We'll be talking about how to achieve resilient and compliant AWS applications with application-centric DR on the AWS services as well. I am Govindra Rangaswamy, CEO and founder of Optronics. We are a site reliability automation company, and I've been with cloud technology since 2012, starting with AWS compatible private clouds back in the day. Now they are all called AWS Outposts. Our team has built and sold a company on the multi-cloud infrastructure management side before starting Optronics. Optronics is all about application-centric and cloud-native approach to managing applications resiliency. Bit of housekeeping, the entire webinar is being recorded. Version of the recorded webinar will be available for you to share with others within your company. And also we request you to share with others on the social networks and so on, so that we can have a broader audience to this particular message. So given that, as I mentioned, Optronics is all about application resiliency, and we simplify that tremendously. When we talk about where the journey to the cloud is, organizations are now in a cloud-first world, right? Either they are starting their newer and newer applications on the cloud itself, or they have migrated a bunch of their applications over to the cloud already. They are in the process of shutting down, in some cases, complete data centers, in some cases, some of the edge locations that they didn't want to deal with. And, organizations are basically starting newer regions or newer applications completely built upon the cloud native technologies. But when you look at the application resiliency spectrum, right? When customers used to run their applications on the data center, now they lift and shift or migrate over to the AWS and Google and Azure and so on. What happens is that the expectation from them is that cloud providers automatically take care of the DR, take care of the backing up and recovery of the workloads and so on. Particularly, bringing up applications completely when something fails. One of the region of the application fails or the zone fails. So what Gartner is saying is that it is the responsibility of the application owner, not the cloud provider, to provide the application resiliency. So DR orchestration, as it stands even in the old days of just bringing up the virtual machine is not too complicated with respect to cloud providers. But when you really want true application resiliency, right, bringing up all the services necessary to run your applications, not only just a bunch of VMs, a bunch of storage volumes or databases and so on. It's about the entire application resiliency that's clearly required. And they have been seeing, Gartner has been seeing inquiries increasing tremendously since 2016. So with a compound annual rate about almost like 20% over that time. So organizations are now realizing that they need to have resilient applications. Of course, the infrastructure is resilient from an infrastructure provider point of view, but the application resiliency has to be brought up. So that is one aspect of it. Yes, got to have for many reasons, even for compliance reasons. But the expectations on the customer side has also changed to a point where they're expecting always on applications. When did Amazon.com go down? Why should my retail application, go down? So the expectation has changed, and it is up to the customers to actually provide that, because the customer experience is your brand. So high performance reliability teams, SRE or cloud ops teams, they need to reduce the risks to the SLAs of the application by investing in the automation. They also need to become compliant, no matter what. It could be because a regular RTO and RPO compliance, and also the newer SOC 2 type of compliance if you are going for certifications with respect to reliability. And on top of that, the same teams, SRE teams particularly, they need to provide all the flexibility for releasing newer and newer features for your application team or the business organizations. So that is also adding up complexity, because that will throw in a lot of changes to your application infrastructure as well. This is a journey that Pragya went through, and they are using our system to provide seamlessly global scalability, security, and updates, and high availability for their higher-end students and university applications. So they've been really satisfied. They've been running it for a while now. There are other bigger customers that I cannot publicly mention, but I will be happy to provide private references if necessary. Given that, when we go and talk to our customers, right, we ask a very simple question. When did you test your application or service resiliency? It's like people are busy doing all kinds of work to make sure that the production environments are running. That's very, very important. But once in a while, you got to be able to flex the muscle and say, I need to test. I need to push the envelope and to test my application's resiliency. When it comes down to that, the legacy style resiliency based on just VM backups and recovery is grossly insufficient for newer cloud native applications. Because now cloud enables you to actually create that true application resiliency that was just not possible before, right? Because all the services that are necessary to run your applications are already there. So why can't we just create the same capability for high availability as well? On the other hand, if you think about it, the natural disasters, you've got to be compliant with the preparedness of your organization's policies. So those are not decreasing with respect to disasters. So the disasters will continue to increase depending on the climate change and so on. So that is anyway taken for granted, but just that you have to be prepared for it. Second aspect is actually becoming more and more problematic with cyber security issues, particularly ransomware attacks. We cannot solve all the cyber security issues. We are not threat detection or any other mechanism. What we help you is to kind of make the environment available. So ransomware attacks are a key threat nowadays. And if you think about it, more and more attacks, about 53K security incidents in 2018 alone. And some of the ransomware attacks are really, really kind of newsworthy in the sense. For example, Atlanta spent about 52K for ransomware payback, but they had to spend about $2.6 million to recover the systems from that attack. The recovery of the systems is very, very difficult because configurations would have changed. You don't know where the data is, assuming that you backed up, but still you'll have to bring all the data back, as well as make sure that all the configurations of the systems, as well as your platforms, your applications, all of that has to be brought up properly to make sure your application runs after an attack. That's very, very crucial for high-performing organizations. Third is a newer type of certification, particularly for SaaS companies or any application that runs as SaaS and are providing external services to your clients. SOC 2 Type 2 compliance is very, very key. And for that, you can have a highly resilient architecture. I'm throwing in an example of a Magento enterprise e-commerce application comprising of several components of the infrastructure and the platform services together to provide that capability. And by the way, we'll use one of these examples as a demo in our particular case. So you can see there are load balancers, there are databases and firewalls, security configurations, all of that need to be properly brought up. Maybe, it's a good idea to have dual zone architectures, but how many people actually do that because of the complexity of the infrastructure as code? And, the organizations are moving to DevOps culture as well. They want to release more and more application features. And for that, agility of the environment is very, very crucial. So when you bring in the resiliency, it's an added burden for the SREs or the cloud ops team. So wouldn't it be easier if you just are able to integrate your resiliency into the pipeline itself? So yeah, as easy as inserting few lines of code into your Jenkins pipeline or continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline is very, very crucial. And that is important because you cannot just become agile and neglect the resiliency part, because it's very, very kind of orthogonal approach. Because, accidental and human error is the biggest cause of system failure, apart from the cybercrime and other attacks, because you are changing the configurations all the time. So if that's the case, how do you really prevent the SLAs going down? So that is one of the reasons why you got to have a fully resilient system. Or if the resiliency fails, you should be able to bring up that system really, really quickly. So let's see how we can solve that. When we talk about Optronics true application resiliency on cloud native environments, this assumes that you have migrated your applications over to AWS, Google, or Azure, and so on. You are pretty much relying on their infrastructure, their platform services, their load balancers, and so on, because you don't have to really look at outside vendors to kind of do those infrastructure services or platform services. Given that, typically, you should be able to achieve peace of mind, but that is not the case. That's what our customers are saying, and the entire system was created based on the customer request initially. So we provide peace of mind with application resiliency. Reliability confidence. You can perform frequent non-disruptive testing to ensure predictable recoveries. In fact, you could do it with 1/10 of the cost of what you could do before. Based on our experience, if you have to schedule recoveries with SunGard or IBM resiliency services, you will have to plan months ahead, because they cannot schedule those recoveries because other customers might be using the same infrastructure. It's very, very difficult. They used to be projects instead of an event. You can achieve the fastest RTO possible, because I will demonstrate how the entire environment comes up for a very large e-commerce application. Can reduce the entire application creation with a single click. Lowest TCO, as I mentioned, not only for testing the recoveries, but also for recovering. So if you recover, you could use the instances that are already available, and also the services that are surrounding those applications will also be automatically brought up without incurring too much cost. So given that, if you look at any solution there, if there is a solution which we came across as not available, and also it is not our case, but also large customers are saying that they looked at several vendors, including backup and recovery vendors, including the native backup capabilities that are available in the platform. None of them has the capability to bring up the entire application in a different zone or a different region. So currently, what's happening is that you run your applications using all these infrastructure services, platform services from cloud providers, right? You have computes, you have VPCs, you have EBS with snapshots, elastic load balancers, and a lot of these enterprise customers actually encrypt their storage volumes. In fact, one of our customers encrypts the storage volume with a key for production and a different set of keys for the secondary region, because they don't want to mix the keys. And we have to work in that environment as well. We don't store any of the keys. It's all stored in customer KMS. So the current approach for application resiliency is that you start with some kind of an automation. Let's say you wrote your previous scripts based on Ansible or similar mechanism. or you might be writing some of the cloud formation or Terraform. So you start with some kind of a custom automation. Now you have to think about snapshot lifecycle management, in AWS data cell lifecycle management capabilities, and third-party backup products if you are not able to bring up some of the capabilities with native solutions. And expensive consultants. You'll have to, you may not have all the skills necessary. You'll have to rely on third parties with certified AWS consultants that can actually write some code. But at the end of the day, if you ask, there is no guaranteed application resiliency. In the case if the application goes down, how do you bring it up? Completely in a different region or different zone. And also, if you put together a system like this, it becomes a nightmarish system because you will have to keep up with this. You will have to keep up with the changes in the configuration, changes in the even EC2 sizes of the virtual machines and so on. So it becomes really, really complex. So we provide a very simple, few clicks based approach of bringing up your entire environment. So assuming that you have your applications are running in your production environment, we don't disturb the production environment. They are running as is. You are free to change your configurations using API, scripting, or any mechanism that you choose or you're doing currently. You can continue to do that, not a problem. We come in, we implement the solution, assuming that your production environment, for whatever reason, goes down. Seamless failover to another region. The system will automatically bring up in your own account. We don't do it in our account. In your entire control is with you. In your account, all the applications will come up completely, right? So that is the capability that we are bringing in. We are highlighting more and more as application resiliency, true application resiliency, unlike what people have seen so far. So given that, how do you get started? It's very easy to get started. You can become really quickly compliant. You can reduce the risk, and you can achieve the resiliency that you want. Overall, just to give you an idea, we are a site reliability automation company. We significantly increase reliability of the applications for customers. We are a EMA top 3 platform for application-centric automation and management. We are a secure enterprise SaaS with 99.9% SLA. That's guaranteed. Otherwise, we end up, paying you back. So it's guaranteed SLA with the 24/7 support. So in order to get started, it's very, very easy to get started because again, this is based on customer demand. One of the enterprise customer wanted us to be on the AWS marketplace. We just put it on the marketplace. We worked with AWS to tightly integrate our integrated SaaS with the AWS services. Based on that, we send the utilization every hour to AWS, and they directly bill the end user, and Optronics will be part of your AWS bill. That's simple. So to get started, it's very simple. Go to AWS Marketplace, subscribe to Site Reliability Automation from Optronics. Continue to subscribe here. We already subscribed, so there is nothing to kind of click from my own account. So once you subscribe, the system will point you to one of these pages here where you can sign up. Or if you already have the account, you can create sign up. You can directly log in. So in my case, for the demo purposes, we are going to simply sign into whatever we already have. So once you sign in, you will be able to look at the Protect services, specifically the service that we are talking about here. There are other services that you can utilize, but Protect service is the key. And you can configure your cloud configuration, AWS, Azure, Google platform. And you can click to get the IAM policies, and you can simply cut and paste the entire policy. It's very, very simple. By the way, some of the customers, as I mentioned, use encryption, different encryption for the EBS volumes between the primary region and the recovery region. You can pretty much cut and paste this and allow the capabilities for us to understand. And by the way, we do not store any keys. The keys are with your KMS. We get a reference and we work with only reference. So you're free to change, rotate your keys anytime, rotate your password anytime, access key secret, all of that is free to do. So you don't have to worry about it. And some of the largest enterprises are using our system. So this is proven already, so you don't have to worry about it. So once you get the protect service, once you configure the cloud configuration, it automatically discovers your infrastructure as a services, all the instances of those services as well. By the way, here we will only show you the virtual machines because it's easy to kind of look at the virtual machine point of view, because we have to give something that's familiar to the users for the operations people. So what you have to do is to go ahead and create so-called assemblies. Assembly is a representation of your cloud services in the infrastructure as a code form, which is basically cloud formation in the AWS case. And all you have to represent is an assembly consisting of your application. So this gives flexibility because first of all, there could be higher priority applications that you want to bring, when they fail. Quickly as possible, and could be lower, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 type of application that you could configure them and bring them up differently. That's why we give the flexibility of grouping them in terms of assemblies. For the demo purposes, I have already grouped them called Ecommerce, and I grouped them in an assembly, Ecommerce assembly. So in this particular assembly, if you look at the resources for the assembly is, as I mentioned, you start with just 4 computes, but Optronics goes and discovers all the resources necessary for creating the application resiliency, right? So customer gateways, DHCP options, all the EBS volumes that you will have to think about, internet gateways, network occurs, all of that will be automatically discovered, right? And represented with infrastructure as code in the backend, which means the system automatically creates that infrastructure as code. All the cloud formation will be automatically created for you from your resources. And along with it, now you have the capability to combine your snapshots, right, based on the policy. So what you'll have to do is to go and define a policy. In this particular case, I defined a very simple policy. I can go ahead and define multiple policies as well, daily, weekly, monthly. It's very similar to any other backup type of system because we wanted to use a similar approach of protecting and giving you the resiliency. So in this particular case, it's an hourly protection for the entire set of resources. And you can retain a number of snapshots in your primary region as well as the recovery region, depending on the policy type. The system will automatically collect all of that. Now, the key thing is, it's not about just taking the snapshots of the EBS volumes and bringing them back in the different region. It's about keeping all other resources, cloud resources, right? In this particular case, for 4 virtual machine instance, you will have to do about 80 different resource types, right? Roughly about 80 different resources from an AWS platform services perspective. So you'll have to manage all of them together if you have to bring the application resiliency to your applications, right? So protection policies automatically create those, and that's all you have to do. The system will automatically keep all of that in a timeline, so you can go back in time, any time that you wanted. And there are 2 ones that are eligible to be recovered because I, in this particular case, kept only 2 snapshots because you cannot recover the snapshot that are already deleted, but you can see what kind of resources we have, right? So in this particular case, if you click one of the resources, you will see the resource configurations. By the way, between these timeline items, you could have changed your security groups. You could have changed your routing table configurations. You could have changed anything in terms of the service configuration using API through DevOps pipeline, or through scripting, or through CLI, any mechanism. You are free to change that, but this Optronics system will automatically keep track of all of that and then give you the capability to recover. And there are requirements coming in for us. People lose security groups. This seems to be a very common thing nowadays. People lose security groups and they don't know how to recover the old security groups for their application. I mean, you can always go and create a new security group. That's not a problem, but you will have to make sure that that security group works within your application boundaries. How do you actually do that? So assuming that all of this is properly set up, what we are going to do is to bring up the application. Now, what type of application is this? The application is an e-commerce application, right? Because I picked e-commerce because it's the requirement for an e-commerce application is that it has to be 24/7, because they need to compete with Amazons of the world, right? And it's very distributed application as well. It has to scale horizontally as well as vertically in some situations. So I logged in as one of the users here, and I bought a bunch of items from the site, and there are 2 items in my shopping cart. So here the system is running okay, great in production. So as you can see, the instances of those systems. So we are running that system, e-commerce system in Northern Virginia. You can see all of the systems here, and the Route 53 is configured with pointing to that particular system as well. So you can see 54153. So please remember that, because that's one that we are going to switch to the recovered systems. I will also show how the CloudFormation stack itself works in the sense that how we are driving the CloudFormation stack through AWS native mechanism. I'll also show you that. And let's go ahead and recover the system at a particular point in time. So in this particular case, let's do the recovery at 1 o'clock Eastern time. So here I'll go and hit recover, because the system will recover in the secondary region. In this particular case, I configure Oregon region to be recovered. So think about recovering entire thing in the second region across the US. Again, all native AWS capabilities. So as you can see, the EC2 dashboard shows nothing, no instances. There are a bunch of security groups already, but the snapshots are already there, because this is a hot, warm standby type of system, right? You can have hot system within your region, hot standby system for your disaster recovery, right? That gives you the resiliency that you need in terms of your SLAs. So we take care of the snapshot copy and everything for you automatically based on the protection policies that you specified. You don't have to worry about how the replication happened. All of that is properly managed on top of AWS using all the native capabilities. So while the system, bringing up that set of resources, you can see the CloudFormation stack here, stack info, all of that. Let's do the release. The resources will come up. You can see there are about 81. I'll have to restart this particular stack. Stacks. It's a different stack. It's a new stack that's getting created. You can see the resources that are getting created here. About 80 resources that need to be managed. So you can see all these resources need to be appropriately brought up in the right order. You don't have to worry about the order specifically, because that is also automatically handled, right? All of that will be brought up more and more. So as the system brings up the entire application, you'll have to wait. In this particular case, for these 4 virtual machines, it won't take beyond like 10 minutes maximum. So you can see all the subnets, all the VPC configurations, and VPN gateways, you name it, security groups, all the routing configurations. All of that will be appropriately brought up. And the great thing about this approach is that we are giving it to, we are creating the entire stack, entire native cloud formation, and then giving it to AWS to run it. And if something goes wrong, as you can see, it will revert back. So your infrastructure is protected in terms of not screwing up. You can always look at what's happening in the backend on AWS. Let's see if this particular thing creation is complete. Let's see what our still in progress. Some more things to be done. As you can see, we give you the output of the cloud formation plus all other things that our system is doing in logs. You can always go back and refer to the logs. That's not a problem. All of that should give you more confidence in terms of what you could do with the recovery of the system. So let's look at what's happening here. Refresh, loads more, and outputs wise still kind of coming up. The events actually will give you more information. All right, so that is load more. All of those resources are getting created, creation initialized, all of that load more. So as you can see, the amount of automation, the amount of management that you will have to do to bring up the entire thing is tremendous. You will have to make sure that, if you are doing it, you will have to write one of those systems, or you will have to manually create all of that together to bring up that system, right? Looks like this is success. So what we are going to do, we are going to update the DNS. So currently it is referring to 45153. So what we are going to do is to switch the DNS over to the West Coast. So let's update the DNS. Of course, this is a very crucial one. So we ask you specifically, would you like to really update? In that case, type update. So update the DNS. When we update, as you can see, this one would have gone down. Let's see. It is switching over. You can see here. So magenta. So it's switched over. So this particular thing has to. Now it's waiting. Looks like it's switched over completely. In that case, take this and create a new one, incognito, and then wait for it. All right, it clearly switched over, so I have to sign in again. Sometimes the browser cache, and I want to make sure that it is properly switched over. So sign in again. Until here. You can see the entire system came back, and in the DNS it's actually pointing to the newer entries. And now what we are going to do is to completely get rid of this and fade it back, right? So this is success. Recovery is successful. All of that is recovered. It's pointing to the one. So what we are going to do is to reset the DNS. Set. Again, we ask you to type reset just to make sure that you're doing the right thing. You're not, clicking some button to kind of automatically reset all of that. And once that is done, see if that is running. It should be able to quickly change it. Waiting here. Right. In that case, what we are going to do is to reset the system completely. Now we are going to get rid of all the resources that are created on the Oregon side. So we are going to reset here completely. Click the button, and then all the resources that were created now will be deleted in the order in which they were created. So reset initialized. They will go back and start deleting. The backend system will automatically trigger the necessary things. It will start the deletion process. So you can see all the deletion process will be complete after a few minutes. And I think this is switched over as well. DNS is switched over. Let's look at. So it is 153 that belongs to EC2 Northern Virginia region. EC2. And that will be the 153 is the Route 53. So it's automatically switched over as well. So now the cleanup will be complete, and the system will be put back. I mean, your AWS account will go back to what it was. So you can see the Oregon region will be cleaned up appropriately without any resources except those snapshots that need to be maintained for your hot standby situation. And other than that, all the resources will be completely cleaned up. They went back, the snapshots will remain, everything else will go back automatically. Now, so that's the overall system capabilities. Resources-wise, can go and look at the systems, and also you can download report of what's protected. So you can go back and look at all the protected systems. Once in a while, this is useful for your reporting purposes. This is again based on customer request, right? So that's also easy to get. And let me stop here and see if there are any questions. Any questions so far? You can raise your hands. There is polls or chat, and you can also use the chat window. Please feel free to use the chat window as well. All right. Any questions? Anyway, the entire thing will be recorded and will be given to you on the YouTube video. So we'll share with all the details. And if you are interested in the system, it's very easy to kind of do the POC as well. It's very, very simple. You can simply go to AWS Marketplace. You can start the process there, or please be in touch with us. We'll be happy to kind of onboard you and give you a free trial for 15 to 30 days, whatever depending on the system requirements or depending on the application types, we'll give you free trial as well. So really appreciate the time you spent with us. Thank you very much.